Hi, I'm Mr. D and welcome to another one of my recipes. Last year we made a Christmas cake in the thermal cooker and it worked really well. So I thought this year for a change we'd try Delia Smits Dundee Cake. And we're going to do a little bit of a twist on this. Rather than the almonds on the top, we're going to do some mixed nuts and some fruits. Now to make the cake, I'm going to use one of my cake tins which have the lid on them, which make them very easy to use in the thermal cooker. But if you use a conventional cake tin, which you can, just remember you'll need to put a foil lid on the top, and you'll also need to make some sort of handle out of string to get it out when it's hot. Now let's look at the ingredients we're going to be using. Now first of all, we need 225 grams of plain flour. We'll need 1 level teaspoon of baking powder, 150 grams of spreadable butter. That's just ordinary butter that we've left out to soften a bit. We're going to need 150 grams of golden caster sugar, 3 large eggs. Now I'm using eggs from our chickens, but any large eggs will do. Ideally though, it would be nice if you use free range ones. Now we may need a bit of milk, so I've just got a little bit of milk here, which just to loosen things up if it gets a little bit stiff, the mixture. Now I've got, on the fruit side, I've taken 175 grams of currants and 175 grams of sultanas and added to that 3 tablespoons of whiskey. I mix that well and I've left that overnight to soak. We have 50 grams of glacier cherries, which have been just cut in half, and 50 grams of mixed candied peel, which has been just chopped. Now we've got 2 level tablespoons of ground almonds, the zest of an orange and the zest of a lemon. Now normally with a Dundee cake you'd cover the top with almonds and you'd decorate them all round. That would be the traditional way. But for a change, as it's Christmas, I'm going to use these mixed nuts I found in the supermarket. They've got almonds in there, but they've also got cranberries in and all sorts of other nuts. So I'm going to sprinkle those over the top, just to give a little bit of a difference to it. Okay, now we've looked at the ingredients, let's get on and make the cake. Now the first thing we're going to need is a large mixing bowl. Now into the mixing bowl we're going to sift the 225 grams of plain flour. This wants to be sifted from a height to get air into it, which will give it more rise to the cake. Now we're going to sift in the 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Okay, put that to one side. Having added the butter, we're going to add the caster sugar. And we're going to add the 3 eggs. You'll notice with the eggs how lovely dark colour those yolks are. That's because of course they're free range. Now with electric whisk, we're going to combine everything together. Now you see that's a little dry, so I'm going to add a little bit of the milk. There we go. Now what we're going to do is fold in all the other ingredients. So first of all we put the currants and the raisins in. They smell amazing with that whiskey, having soaked overnight with the whiskey. The cherries. The mixed peel. The ground almonds. The orange zest. And the lemon zest. And we're going to fold all that in. But I'd never made a cake at all until I got a thermal cooker. Now I make quite a few. The beauty with cakes in the thermal cooker is they are just so lovely and moist. The bad thing about it is they don't last very long. Just put that to the one side for a moment, and I'm just going to get my cake tin. Okay. Now what I'm going to do with the cake tin, and I always tend to do this, so I get some marge or something like that. I get a ordinary little brush. This is a pastry brush. I take the base out. These bases are made out of silicone, and I cut them out, and then I can wash them each time that I need to, which means that I can keep using them. The other way is to use greaseproof paper, but if you use greaseproof paper you do have to throw it away each time, so this just makes that difference. I don't normally worry about the sides too much for sticking, so I don't put greaseproof paper around the sides, because I can also run a knife around there because it's an absolutely flat edge. The main problem is the sticking in the bottom, so just give this a good coating of, just give it a good coating of spread. Just make sure you've got it well coated in spread, and then you can put the base back in. It'll stick nicely to it, and don't forget the lid. The lid needs it. Just give that a coating over. So, in this case, it probably won't rise to the lid. Okay, so that's that done. Now we need to spoon the mixture into the tin. We don't want to ruck the bottom up too much, so get a nice smooth top on it. Now at this point, what I'd normally do is you'd put all your almonds all over it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle on those nuts and the fruits that I've got. So there you go, lovely and Christmassy. Just pat them in just slightly. I don't want them to sink in, I just want them to stay there. And we've got the green of the pistachios, and we've got the red of the cranberries, and we've also got some almonds, so lovely fruits in there. Now next thing to do is just put the lid on and put it in the thermal cooker. So open the thermal cooker and take off the lid. We're going to put a trivet in the bottom. This is to get the maximum amount of water in, because don't forget we are actually cooking this cake at only 100 degrees centigrade, not as you would in the oven. So using that little less temperature, we'll need to get as much volume there to keep that temperature up. So first thing I'm going to do is pour some water in the bottom. Now what I'm looking for is, you can just about see the water here. I'm looking for the water to come up to about this level here. So obviously that's not quite right yet. I can look down there and see. So I'm going to just top that up until it comes up to that level. So there you go. That's fine. Now I'm going to turn my burner on. I'm just using a portable gas burner here. And I'm going to put the inner pot on it, shut the lid, and now I'm going to just leave that until it comes to the boil. And when it comes to the boil, I'm going to turn it down to a simmer and let it simmer for about 30 minutes. With cakes and bread, you need to let them simmer for that length of time, and once they've simmered for 30 minutes, in the outer container, shut the lid and leave them to cook for 4 or 5 hours. Doesn't matter too much. I mean, most times we will put them on in the evening and just leave them to cook overnight. Okay, now that's come to the boil, I'm going to turn it right down to a simmer. I'll just take the lid off so you can see what's happening. It's just going bloop, bloop. Just see, that's what we want. We don't want any more than that. Put its lid on, and I'm going to leave it like that now for half an hour, and then we'll put it in its outer container and leave it to cook. So that's now had 30 minutes simmering. All that's now needed to do is turn off the heat and slide that over there. Bring in the outer container. To the outer container. Shut the lid, and now leave that to cook for around 4, 5, 6 hours. So we'll leave that, and then we'll look at it later. Okay, so it's been in the cooker for about 6 hours, so let's open it up and see what it looks like. Okay, take the lid off, and this is always the exciting bit. And wow, that looks really good, I think. So what I can do is just get that out onto a plate. I'm going to use a knife around the side. Just careful not to cut yourself. Okay, and it should easily come out now. And you can see lovely texture, nice. And I've got this really nice plate for it. Christmas. We can put some holly around the outside. And there we have Delia's Dundee Cake.